Before I say anything else, before this story begins, before you decide whether it's worth your time, let me ask you something. Do you believe quiet moments can change your life? Not the dramatic ones. Not the screaming fights. Not the movie-style confessions. I mean the soft ones. The ones that happen on an ordinary Tuesday night, when nothing special is supposed to happen. And yet somehow everything changes. If stories like that mean something to you, the slow, honest, real kind, then take a second to subscribe to this channel. Seriously. Because these aren't loud stories. They don't chase you. They sit with you. And sometimes, they find you exactly when you need them most. Hit like too. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I always read them. Alright. Take a breath. This one is quiet. But it's honest. And it almost didn't happen, because I almost didn't say the words. I had practiced them in my head for days. Maybe weeks. Maybe longer than that, if I'm being truthful. The words weren't complicated. They weren't dramatic. They weren't even confrontational. But they felt heavy. Because once certain truths leave your mouth, you can't gather them back up again. They don't politely return. They just hang there between two people, asking to be dealt with. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. So for a long time, I stayed quiet. That evening started like every other evening. Ordinary. Predictable. Safe. The kind of night you forget almost immediately. The dishes were stacked in the sink. Not messy, just waiting. The living room lamp cast that soft yellow light that makes everything look warmer than it really is. The TV murmured in the background, some show we'd both seen before but kept playing anyway. Comfort noise. Filler sound. Something to avoid silence. He was sitting at the far end of the couch, one leg crossed over the other, scrolling through his phone. Thumb moving. Pause. Scroll. Pause. Little bursts of blue light flashing across his face. Half there. Half somewhere else. And I was lying back against the cushions, staring at the ceiling like it held answers. If someone had looked through the window, they would have said, "They look peaceful. They look stable. They look fine." And maybe we were. But sometimes fine is just another word for slowly drifting apart without realizing it. My chest felt tight. Not pain. Not anger. Not sadness. Just unfinished. Like a sentence that never reached its period. Like a song that fades out before the last note. I couldn't explain it. We weren't fighting. We weren't unhappy. Nothing was wrong. And somehow, that was the problem. Nothing was wrong. But nothing felt alive either. When you've been with someone long enough, you start memorizing them. Not just their favorite food or their birthday. You memorize the small things. The way they breathe when they sleep. The way their shoulders slump when they're tired. The tiny sound they make when they're concentrating. I knew all of his rhythms. I knew when he was stressed. I knew when he was distracted. I knew when he was content. And that night, he looked content. Calm. Settled. Comfortable. And I realized something that scared me. Comfort can quietly turn into distance if you're not careful. Not because love disappears, but because effort does. I scooted closer to him and rested my head on his shoulder. He smiled automatically and kissed the top of my hair. Quick. Familiar. Routine. The kind of kiss you give without looking away from your screen. And that tiny moment hurt more than it should have. Because I remembered when his kisses used to linger. When he used to pause whatever he was doing just to look at me. When touching me felt intentional. Chosen. Not automatic. Not background behavior. I told myself I was overthinking. I'm good at that. Marriage has phases, I thought. Everyone settles. This is normal. Maybe it was normal. But normal didn't feel warm. It didn't feel connected. It felt like we were roommates who shared history. Partners who shared logistics. But not two people who truly saw each other anymore. The show ended. Credits rolled. He reached for the remote. Want to watch another episode? He asked casually. I opened my mouth to say yes. Because yes would have been easy. Yes meant no risk. Yes meant we could keep pretending everything was fine. But instead, something else slipped out. Soft. Unplanned. Barely louder than a whisper. Can we talk for a minute? He paused. Then something small but important happened. He turned his phone face down on the table. Just like that. No sai. No annoyance. No about what? Just attention. And I didn't realize how much I missed having his full attention until that exact second. Of course, he said. Simple. Gentle. Present. Silence settled between us. Not awkward. Just honest. Like the air was waiting. My hands suddenly felt clumsy. Where do you start when nothing is technically wrong? How do you explain a feeling that doesn't have a name? I've been feeling something, I began. Then stopped. Because it sounded stupid. Childish. Ungrateful. We had a good life. A stable life. Who complains about that? But he didn't rush me. He just waited. And sometimes being given space is the bravest kind of love. I don't know how to explain it without sounding ungrateful. I said finally. Because I love our life. I love you. I really do. He nodded. Listening. Open. Not defensive. But sometimes it feels like we're just moving through the days on autopilot. Like we're doing everything right, but not really seeing each other anymore. There. It was out. Messy. Imperfect. But real. His eyebrows furrowed slightly. Not angry. Thoughtful. Like he was searching his own heart too. I didn't want to bring it up. I continued. I was scared I'd ruin something good. And that's when he said something that still echoes in my mind. You wouldn't ruin it by talking, he said quietly. You'd ruin it by staying quiet. I swear something broke open inside my chest when he said that. Because I didn't realize how badly I needed permission to be honest. So I took a deeper breath. And I said the scariest thing. I miss us. Not the chores. Not the bills. Not the responsibilities. I miss the way we used to talk for hours. I miss the way you used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. I miss feeling chosen, not just assumed. He leaned back slowly. Exhaled. And for a second I thought maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I'd hurt him. But then he said something I never expected. I thought you were comfortable, he admitted. I thought comfortable meant we were okay. I am comfortable, I said softly. I just don't want comfort to be all we have. Silence again. But this time it felt different. Like we were both standing at the edge of something new. Then he reached for my hand. And his thumb brushed across my knuckles slowly. Deliberately. The way he used to. I guess, he said quietly. I thought this was just what long-term love turns into. Less talking. Less touching. More routine. I shook my head. It doesn't have to be. And that's when I finally said it. The sentence I'd been rehearsing for days. The one I almost kept locked inside. I want us to try again. He blinked. Try what? Try choosing each other. On purpose. Not out of habit. Not because we're supposed to. But because we want to. He smiled. Not the quick automatic smile. The real one. The slow one. I want that too, he said. I just didn't know how to ask. And something shifted. Not dramatically. No music. No movie moment. Just closeness. He leaned in and kissed me. Slow. Soft. Present. The kind of kiss that says, I'm here. And I didn't realize how long it had been since I felt that until it happened. That night didn't end with promises. No big speeches. No grand declarations. Just conversation. Honest ones. Messy ones. We talked about everything. The things we missed. The things we were scared to admit. The small ways we'd both slowly checked out without meaning to. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were on the same team again. The next day, nothing magical happened. But something intentional did. We ate dinner at the table. No phones. We actually asked each other questions. Not how was work, but how are you really feeling lately? And we listened. Actually listened. Days passed. Little things changed. He'd pull me closer while I cooked. I'd rest my hand on his back. When we passed in the hallway, we started going to bed at the same time just to talk. Sometimes about nothing. Sometimes about everything. But it felt alive. And every once in a while, I think back to that moment on the couch. The moment I almost said nothing. The moment I almost chose silence because it felt safer. And it scares me. Because silence wouldn't have protected us. It would have slowly erased us. Here's what I learned. Not every turning point is loud. Not every relationship ends with explosions. Sometimes love doesn't break. It just fades quietly. Unless someone is brave enough to speak. Sometimes all it takes is one sentence you almost didn't say. If this story felt familiar, if you've ever sat beside someone you love and felt miles away, if you've ever had words stuck in your throat because you were scared to rock the boat, maybe this is your sign. Talk. Be honest. Choose each other again. And if quiet, real stories like this matter to you, subscribe, like the video, and tell me where you're listening from. Because you never know who might need to hear something like this tonight. And maybe, just maybe,